Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Connor's Communication and Self-Improvement Podcast, where we dissect stories from around the globe and tease out the tactics and habits to become a more competent communicator and overall well-rounded human being. Today's segment is going to be about finding a career. And I would especially like to talk about this because I've been going through the motions myself lately. I'm graduating in May, and I have learned some things along the way that I thought I could share with you guys. So, just to get things started off, I like to quote Tim Ferriss, one of my business heroes. It's a great guy. If you haven't heard of his work, check it out. So, he says, for most people, life would be boring without meaningful work. Now, that gets me going a lot because it really makes you think, when do we do work actually? Well, most of us do work during the weekdays, and we have fun on the weekends. But if we have meaningful work, maybe then we can have fun at work and it could be fulfilling. At least that's what I want for my career. So, in my opinion, to find a successful career, you need to work at a company that has great culture. For me, it is a company where I know I can meet amazing people and be surrounded by an innovative culture to grow my knowledge of the startup ecosystem. I care deeply about the value that my work can offer, but also the integrity I bring with it. I enjoy doing research that I can solve real world problems with and see the impacts, but it's important to know also what the actual definition of culture is. Culture is based on beliefs and values, but it's important to know that communication plays a role into it as well. You see, scholars still have this debate today if communication creates culture or vice versa. But all you need to know is that both concepts are very important. I'll be first to tell you that I'm no expert on finding careers, but what I do know is that culture is important for you specifically. The information I provide is credible since it is a synthesis of all my mentors and professors' advices, and I've learned some things along the way while applying to jobs and preparing for interviews, and I really think this information can be helpful for you guys to kind of mark your way or find that yellow brick road to the dream job that you want. So to transition, we need to figure out a great strategy to figure out our values that match our communication or culture. So luckily for you guys, I've already found that out. Comes from Tim Ferriss again, and it is called Why. At times, I think we focus a little bit too much on the monetary aspect of the job, but we don't really consider the kinds of people we will be working with day to day. I think that's a grave mistake. If your values don't align with the job description or the job at hand, the people at the work site, you will eventually burn out. Sure, you could do it for a while, but you won't last long. Therefore, it is important you do your homework on the organization at hand. What do they value? What do you value? Are those two things in sync? The question of why addresses this. Another version of this I have heard is, so what? Let me give you an example. I cultivate positive relationships, helping my peers and giving back to my community. So what? In turn, that creates a spread of positivity. So what? It shows that I value communication and the spread of happiness. So what? That shows that happiness is not something that should be hogged. And so on and so on. The more I've done this exercise, the more I've actually found out about myself, and I really think this exercise can be beneficial for you as well. Oftentimes, it helps if you have a pen or a journal of some kind, and really write these things out to make you reflect upon your past experiences and what makes you you. I find that after you figure out what your values are, it's a lot easier to think back upon the stories that make up those values. Oftentimes in interviews, we have to talk about these stories or our values to explain who we are. And sometimes we can be nervous, and some people say you should fake it until you make it. That may be true to a certain extent. Actually, Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street, says something similar: fake it until you become it. But I believe if you understand your core values, then you will never have to fake anything, at least when it comes to my personal experience. When I talk about values or my beliefs, I tend to exude more confidence than I normally would talking about a subject that I don't really know much about or I only feel lukewarm about. I value research, collaboration, and testing new hypotheses. So what? Well, one time I cold called the Dean of Entrepreneurship at my university and received a grant for my chapter. I created party-themed t-shirts with my team, and together we sold advertising spots on the back of the t-shirts and profited several $100s. So what? Well, I couldn't have done it without excellent communication and teamwork. So what? Well, that whole story led me down to I am passionate, I am coachable, and I am ready and willing to grow with any company that matches those same beliefs. These are some important things you can think about as you're looking for your job. Use the so what and why tactic to help you figure out what your actual core beliefs and your core values are. This will help narrow your search so you don't end up getting analysis paralysis, which I will be first to admit I still experience sometimes. But every time I get in that clutch of seeing too many options and then doing nothing, I go back to the so what and why technique. It is very helpful and I highly recommend it. Thank you, Tim Ferriss, and whoever Tim Ferriss learned that from. So, these are all things you guys should be reflecting and think about when you're wondering, what makes me me? Join me next time when I infiltrate the College of Business dinner reception and I met the First Lady of our university, Mrs. Dietz. Thank you for listening and share with your friends.